What do I actually want the business to do for me?
What's the reason?
What decisions am I avoiding? What if I had to replace myself tomorrow? What would break?
Is this ego and vanity going, nobody can replace me?
What's the real root cause of my stress?
If you're a small business owner, that stress is a moving target, right?
What's the one number I need to look at every week as a business owner?
Man, is there a right answer to this? This was the 10 questions least asked by business owners. This is not 9-to-5 stuff. This is life stuff.
Strong companies, lasting partnerships, powerful events. Welcome to the Experience Builders Podcast.
Chris, it's always good to see you.
Hey,
We've
Khalil.
got a fun episode today of 10 least questions that our listeners that own businesses or run businesses should be asking themselves that probably don't. We did this on another forum type format, and we thought it'd be fun to do with our listeners.
Love the idea. I mean, if you told me, so I'm a serial entrepreneur, as you know, I've been a business guy for 40 years. And so, and I just realized how much I don't know the deeper, you get on the journey. But when someone says, what are the 10 least asked questions by business owners? You go, oh my gosh, where do we start? I have so many. So I love the idea of doing this. And I don't know if you and I have isolated the right 10, but they are certainly 10. So I'm anxious to dive into this.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll ask a question.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. We'll go through all 10. I'll start with the first one. What do I actually want the business to do for me? Yeah. So I like that this is the first one, by the way.
I do too. And you know what? Our mutual friend, Martin Holland, if he's listening, he's the guy that put me on the path where there was a time I would answer that question going, I would be describing more of the vision or the mission statement, right? And that is what I want it to be for customers, what problems I want to solve or the value I want to bring to others through the offerings we have. And then Martin just reminded me in one of our discussions of, no, you're in business for a reason. What's the reason, right? And then so I'm going to answer this like being true to that. And that is what I want this business to do for me, my business is I want it to generate an income for me and my family and the people that I employ, a good income. I'd like it to allow for retirement savings in addition to that. And I guess as a person committed to a lifetime of service in this particular business I own, I have others that I'm not as active in, my hope is we're building something that ultimately will allow for a liquidity event. So it's funny, I'm thinking about financial, and that goes back to Martin. You're in business to make money. That's why you're in business, right? So that's, I tend to lean that way. What about you? How would you answer the question?
Gosh. So I've been doing a lot of thinking on things along this line for the last probably 6 weeks or so. I've kind of come up with like a purpose statement, if you will. And everything kind of points back to that personal purpose. And for me, it's I help others reach their potential by educating, equipping, and empowering them. And I want to be an example of that, meaning I want to reach my potential. And so I don't know, that's kind of broad. It's not very specific necessarily in nature, but in the work that I do, I want to be supporting other people, right? And helping them reach their potential, right? So right now I'm with Chris, we're making content, I'm supporting him and reaching his potential of making content.
That's fascinating.
And
can I ask you, so you didn't mention the financial aspect of your business at all. Right. It really is about the meaning and joy and you get from it personally. I'm curious, do you think our answers have anything to do with our respective ages or where we're at in our careers?
Well,
I'm just curious.
I say
It just
that.
occurred to me
So
that, so
no, it's great. I think in the, I want to be an example of reaching my potential. I think that's where maybe the income would come in for me.
yeah.
Right. So if I'm reaching my potential, this is actually a really good point. I'm forgetting, Naval Ravikant is his name. He has a really great book. The Almanac of Naval, I think is his name, is what it's called. But he's a entrepreneur, and he said that the number one indicator of intelligence is people getting what they want, right? It's not money. It's not an IQ score. It's, okay, did that person get what they want, right? So if you want money, right, can you actually go and find a way to go and do that? If you want happiness, can you go and figure out a way to become happy? Whatever it is, if you can find a way to get what you want, that is your intelligence score. And so with that, reaching my potential, the things that I want, does require money, right? But I do not want to be lost in the money. I don't want to get to a point where I have a,
yes.
yeah, I'm not saying that you do either.
No, but what is it? It's, I have, it was, you've heard me quote Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson, right? The 1 minute manager. I have more fun. I enjoy more financial success when I stop trying to get what I want. I start helping other people get what they want. And what about the, find something you love to do for work and you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's along the vein of what you're describing. And I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, retirement is just something you hit these mile markers of birthdays. And so at some point that became something I think more about. So I've learned, there was a time, I think it was when the movie Wall Street came out with Charlie Sheen and Michael Douglas, that my family was terrified. I wanted to be the richest guy in the room the fastest way possible when that movie came out. And just don't let it corrupt who you are. And and even my own daughters have said, why do you always make it about money? As I try to teach them the value of a dollar, I'm like, I'm not making it about money, but the world has a funny way of teaching you that, it has a set of rules to operate by, and you being able to support yourself is one of those things. So anyway, yeah, I don't think that should be, your true north compass. I think you've got to pick a thing, to your point, that you love doing. And and for you, I love that you are measuring it through the eyes of others, those that you're in service to. And that's a very noble business endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and like Martin would say, and we've talked about this before, noble endeavors are great and they're helpful in getting motivation and getting you the inspiration you need to keep going and to stay clear on what it is you're trying to accomplish. But the objective purpose of business is generating more cash, like you said.
Yes.
And so you can only reach your subjective reasons for being in business and your potential, like I have, if you have cash turning into more cash. So I think this is a really good question to ask yourself regularly, because your wants change, your desires change. I'm going through that. We're in a season of life of having kids and growing our family, and desires change. I want a minivan. I think we've talked about that on the episode.
Yeah.
I think it's coming this week, by the way. But yeah, lots of cool
I don't know.
things.
Money sounds kind of relevant in that world, Khalil.
It does.
Especially
it does.
when you have
right?
a brand new little person adding to the needs list.
Exactly. Well, even more so, it's to reach my potential as a father.
Absolutely.
I need the minivan, right? So, yeah.
I see what you did there. I like how you pulled that around and parked it.
Yes, exactly. So it is an important one to revisit, right?
Yeah.
It's an important one to think about, not just one and done, but hey, what do I want? Is this business serving me, right? And a lot of times we can get lost in the sauce and forget about ourselves. And ultimately, a business that's going to be healthy and strong and profitable, hopefully, will be serving you.
Yeah.
Not just out in the void, right?
Agreed.
Let's go to the next question.
Okay.
What's the one number I need to look at every week as a business owner?
Man, that is just, is there a right answer to this? Or is there probably is a right
I don't know.
answer.
Yeah.
Because I thought about that and I was like, well, I was going to say as a young business owner, but I'm not young anymore. And I'm not, you think about sales, you think about the cash in this week or your cash flow, right? You think about, I remember where that number was always payroll. What's payroll this week? Because you sweat payroll, for so many weeks, so many years. If there's a number, is it the number of opportunities that we generate? Is it the number of customers that we have? Are we growing that number? But I think the one I probably, if I had to pick one, I'd probably say, if I believe in my process, my system, and we're tight in how we do things, I'm probably going to pay attention most weekly to my gross margin percentage, because that, if we're doing the things we're supposed to be doing and we're trained to be doing, and now we've been in business a while that we do, that's the number where it's going to tell me if everything's going to be okay, or if there's a significant decline there. That's my first spot of trouble. Is it an anomaly that something happened, or is there a trend? So I would probably say gross margin. How about you?
Okay. Well, I think this is an important one to think about. Very much similar to you have to ask yourself this question regularly. It's not just, oh, that's the one number and we never need to change what we think about, And I think it's always, you always need to be thinking about what is your constraint, right? So if you're running with a group of people and you take the slowest person in the group and you put them at the front, they're going to slow everybody down, right? We can only run as fast as the slowest guy in the group. Same way in business.
Yeah.
Whatever your constraint is, you can only go as fast as your constraint. You can only be as efficient as your constraint, right? So if you're in business and your constraint is production, you've got to find a way to get your production up, because you can only go as fast as that production. If you can only get one widget out a week, you're only going to be able to do one widget a week. You can't sell more than one widget a week. And so, but as you get your production to 10 widgets a week, you may have a different constraint. Maybe it's that you can't sell 10 widgets a week. And so you've got to increase your sales.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's okay that number changes.
Yes, I 100%. I mean, obviously there's going to be important numbers in business, across any business, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is your cash flow? Obviously, that matters. But you can't increase at a certain point, you can't increase your cash flow if you don't think about a different number, right? So for us right now, like, the most important number that I'm thinking about right now is qualified appointments. How many qualified appointments are we generating every single week for sales calls? Because if I can get a lot of qualified appointments, it's right now, that's the jogger that's at the front of the group that's slowing us down. But once we can get them sped up, who's next behind, right?
Right.
And then you're thinking about delivery of services, right? Okay, how can we get more efficient at our operations, et cetera, et cetera. And during that time, you're thinking about cash. I think cash is an important one. But I think as the business owner, that one number should fluctuate from season to season. And you're always thinking about what's the constraint? How can you get it up?
See, I would have said an answer kind of like that, but I thought I had to pick one. Now, but you're absolutely right. Is an owner, the guy or girl that sits above the treetops and you have visibility on all of it. You're right. It's never one thing. Let's just say it starts off as sales. You're chasing revenue and you're chasing the right kind of revenue. And then, what if you hit bottlenecks, right? Then it's, how do I eliminate the choke points? How do we get a clean order through the system? How many clean orders can we get through the system? I think about our future. And the number I think about is, what's the average age of the people at my company? Do I have enough of the next generation coming through that's going to be everything we need to be for the next 20 years, right? So you're right, that number, that really important number, changes with the seasons. I like what you said. You're in the season of parenthood right now. It's like that with business. You go through seasons, and maybe the answer is a minivan all the time for me. So
That's
that's a
great.
great question, but
So
reminds me to think about.
yeah, this third question kind of supports that and helps you try to figure out what that number should be. But
Okay,
which parts of my business would break if we doubled?
if I think about what dragons are we're trying to slay right now, and if twice the volume, let's pick sales. Okay, if that were it and it doubled, you go, okay, that solves a lot of, well, if you're a well-run company, it can solve some problems. But all of a sudden, you're right. If I think about, I think for me, doubling business, I think about how are we able to scale quickly in the ways we need to. When I think about, it'd be the areas I don't feel I can scale quick enough in my business, veteran or established, what we call senior project managers that have a knowledge, a process knowledge, an industry knowledge, the relationships in all the cities where we get things done for people. They just, they don't all grow on trees, and there's not a lot of them that are unemployed, right? So how do I double that bench if business doubled? I think right now, maybe it's because of the emphasis on things like AI, Khalil. I think the technology driven or the areas I'm looking to automate, that's the thing I think that would slow me down because a lot of what we do still feels very manual. And I know this is a thing for my industry. So for exhibit builders, we talk a lot about the pursuit, the time it takes to estimate a turnkey project for an event. And it could take hours or days, depending on the type of event. And if you're in an RFP situation, right? So the holy grail right now is, can any of these AI technology tools, I don't think it's going to replace and be able to all be done automated. There's a great guy, longtime friend. His name's Tim Young. He's a senior VP with the Astound Group. Shout out to Astound. And he's been killing it on a thread on LinkedIn lately, talking about AI will not save or help a company who's got broken processes, right? And so you go, so I think, to double sales, to double capacity, to double inventory, and which would allow me to pay, all of those things just lead to a new bottleneck or a new challenge of, right? What are we doing? So for me, I think the two things I would look at that would give me a problem if we doubled in our business is, one would be the areas that I don't feel I can quickly scale up. And two would be the things I'm already feeling pressure to embrace technology to help us be more efficient. Well, if we just needed that twice as much, we don't have the answers yet on that.
Yeah.
So those would be my two things. What
Yeah,
about you?
I think it's the capacity to deliver. If we doubled sales, it would probably be around hiring. Our people would be over capacity. We wouldn't deliver enough, so we'd have to go and hire, And then onboarding becomes a big issue. Training becomes a big issue. Introducing staff to clients becomes an issue if needed. Yeah. So just getting everybody to understand the systems, buy into the systems.
I find it's funny, Clue. We're in an interesting place right now. I have capacity, and and we're growing, but it has to do with the quality of the people that we've hired, and in addition, I think my senior staff, the management team, we've really shaken out any slop that was in our system, and that could be in the discovery process. I mean, we will tap out and say no to something not because we're afraid. We've just gotten really good at knowing who we are and who we are not. And we don't chase anything just, to get the business. So as a result, we're very intentional. And I find that, it's funny, we just had this conversation. We're talking about bringing on, maybe doing a small acquisition, and we have the capacity to take it on without really having to do much in way of additional fixed costs. But then what immediately will leave is the comfort of however we're growing naturally and organically beyond that. Well, we better make some moves so we feel just as ready as we feel right now,
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, I mean, you think about what would break. Sometimes it's your culture that could break if you doubled, Sometimes
That's a great
a good one that people don't think about, sometimes your accounts receivable doubles.
Yeah, great point.
So how does cash look whenever you're in that case? How does inventory look whenever you're, so
How
those
good
are
are you
all
at
things to think about.
Right. How good are you at collecting money, right? Because if you double in size, you're gonna, let's just say you're doubling the same kind of work you're doing now, you're doubling costs. So if you're not good at the collections and adhering to whatever your terms are and your financial protocols are, you can get in trouble pretty quick, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have the working capital to double?
So, yeah,
That's a
exactly.
big
Great point.
question.
Great point.
Okay. So as you think about capacity, question 4, am I managing people or am I babysitting them?
Ooh, yeah.
And I think this is a really good one to ask over and over. It's least asked. It's not just a one-time question because you can fall into rhythms. Maybe you used to babysit people in this, task, but then you finally trusted them and now you're managing them and not babysitting them. But then you're on this new area of the business and now you're babysitting again. Is that something that you're doing?
We're in a really good place right now. So the two comments I'll make on this is, right now, if I had to say, we're 90% managing and we're 10% babysitting. I don't know if babysitting ever goes away, but I mean, if you have a culture where you're running around worried about how much time people are spending on Facebook and Instagram and you can't see their screens and what are they really doing in there, that's a different type of a problem. But my business partner, Martin Laurel. So when Martin and I worked for, in the 90s, we were working at the same exhibit house, and I was brought in kind of as a substitute teacher. Ownership blew out the top 4 managers, and I was brought in as sort of an acting GM. And ultimately, what was going to be 2 weeks turned into 4 months living at the Embassy Suites, which turned into 2 years of there. But in that first quarter of being there, as I'm trying to just identify the challenges, and it was losing a lot of money, I made a list of the 53 people that worked there. And I got to know them, who everybody was, and then force ranked. And then it turned out I drew a line, the bottom 19. So a bit more than a third of the staff, I felt were actively, to use the babysitting analogy, bad children, bad toddlers, actively working against the mission of what I was trying to do and owners wanted to do. And if you just think about how exhausting that is to babysit, these people literally were undoing the change that was so needed. And I remember saying to the board that I answered to, I said, this would almost be easier to just nuke it completely and start over from scratch. Try to turn that around. So, we're grown-ups at work, all of us. It's terrible to use the term babysitting, but I think everybody knows what we mean when we're talking about that. So I feel wonderful being at a place where that's not a concern, but I have been there, and man, it's you can never reach your company's full potential if you are spending, I don't know what the percentage is, a significant amount of time babysitting or watching people that you can't trust to really do the job that you need them to do. What about you? I mean, how do you view that? By the way, can I just say, managing is managing, but I also think part of managing your staff is developing them, helping them develop, which is what,
Might be the
that's a
biggest
core
part.
tenet of yours, right? Is to help the
Yeah,
companies
absolutely.
develop.
You have to develop them. I think I don't know. You have to be very self-aware in this one. And sometimes I'm more self-aware than others. I would say that I lean towards managing my people, but sometimes babysitting doesn't come in the form of micromanagement. It comes in the form of not challenging people. For example, if I'm like a babysitter, an actual babysitter to a kid, I never have them do something that is actually challenging, right? Like maybe we need to cook dinner, and I only have them opening up, taking the groceries out of the bag, rather than like, hey, we actually need to cut it. We need to do this. I'm trusting them to get the groceries out of the bag, right? So I'm not babysitting them because I'm trusting them to do that. But I'm also not challenging them to do anything difficult. And thus, by not challenging them, I'm effectively babysitting them. I'm not giving them opportunities to make mistakes. And so I think that's how I would babysit people. I'm not going to sit there and watch people. I'm not going to,
Right.
Hold their hand through everything and micromanage them. But I tend to avoid managing people sometimes by not giving them enough challenges that would force them to make mistakes. And so, anyways.
So is that the same as managing them in a task-oriented way, which go finish these 3 things and come back and see me when you're done, right? Because that's...
Yeah, it could be.
I think that's a bad...
I don't know that I'm at that
manager.
level.
Yeah.
That is a bad manager. I don't know that I'm at that level. It's more so that I still hold myself accountable for some of the areas, right?
Yes.
Where like, I won't say, hey, this is your number. Figure out how to get to that number while maintaining our culture and our principles and et cetera. But you're accountable to that number. And if you need help, I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you.
And do you have
coach you through it.
Is there a built-in checkpoint then? Either time or quarterly or
I'm
monthly?
so big on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because that...
I meet with my team regularly, and not in a babysitting fashion. But I have a weekly kickoff meeting with my direct reports where we say what our priorities are for the week, what we're going to be accountable to. And then we have a touch point set up throughout the week that, hey, you can reach me whenever, but hey, let's have a little check-in call. And then at the end of the week, let me know if you did well or if you didn't do well. And we'll meet the next week to level set again. So I do that. But I try to manage people. Out of trying to help people reach their potential, I understand that babysitting to them is not going to help them reach their potential. But I think sometimes whenever I don't have the capacity to think about it, or I'm worried that they're not going to do a good job and I don't have the energy to coach them through it that week, I won't assign things. I won't.
You made a comment a minute ago, and you just said, I can't remember if you're good or bad at it, but you said I still put myself in charge of that, or I'm responsible for those things. And I remember, I spent my whole career as an owner being that guy. I'm still going to do this or that, and I somewhere along the line, I think I crossed over when I became the guy that I'm the only one that works full time on my business every day. I'm no longer working in it. And the few forays back into working in, I'll handle this. Maybe it's because there's a gap, there's a position that we're in transition of, or it's a new position, and I just feel myself letting people down when I go back to being a doer. And it feels horrible because I pride myself. I think most entrepreneurs have done every single job in their business at one point in time. It's how you've built it. It's one of the ways you have why your owners can be have a knowledge base like no other, because don't tell me you can't do it that way. I've done that job. I know how to do it. Right. So,
Right.
but I'm at a point now where I've got to find somebody that can do that, because now that I'm doing this other stuff at a 10,000 foot elevation, continuing to bungee jump down and do the stuff, on a granular level or a daily or sometimes an hourly basis, I just, I don't do a good job at that anymore. So,
Hmm.
and I consider it a
Well,
great sign of
this
maturity that I'm able to now say that out loud.
well, this ties directly into that. And question 5 is, what if I had to replace myself tomorrow? What would break?
Mm.
And it sounds like, because you're not getting into the weeds too much, hopefully a lot of the operations wouldn't break, but there would be something that would break, right?
Yeah. You know what I feel like I would, is that if I were a witness, if my business were a plane, right? And I were a witness saying, I feel like there'd be a slow dissension. Not enough that it's changing the cabin pressure, not enough that anybody's running for. And I don't know, are you going to tell me, maybe is this ego and vanity going, nobody can replace me? As, I'm still more of a, you know, I'm the guy that keeps the vision clear in front of everybody. Um, I think I've got 360 visibility. So, I can run around and see things because I've been that individual before. But yeah, I think I've got enough of an executive team and a leadership team. Um, I'm not seeing anything break. I worry about, do some of the high level relationships suffer with our best customers, because sometimes, when you owners talk to other owners or to business leaders, you know, a lot of, it's funny, we talk a lot about this with our PMs and our AMs. Um, our best customers, our relationship is not just transactional, right? And we do a lot of projects for people, but it's got to be, it's got to be more than just transactional. And I'm constantly looking for ways to do that and see that. So I think I worry about the slow descent effect of my absence. And then they go, and I'm thinking about my 4 on the executive team going, yeah, we think you need to leave more. Right. And, by the way, it is ironic that some of the best cash in weeks happen when I'm not there. And I'm like, am I the problem? So anyway, what about you? So what breaks
Yeah, sales
if you're
for sure.
sales?
Sales is the one that would break, right now, at least. Hopefully that changes, but
And why
after that,
is it?
go ahead.
I mean, let's be honest. You got to be a bit of a storyteller, right? I just remember, I just go back to several years back, even when you and I first met. Who else could have told the Benali story the way you told
Right.
it? The values, the principles,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think most business owners feel that way, to some extent, until they get to a certain size and have middle management and full-time salespeople
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And we're not there yet. I think, in my opinion, it's one of hopefully the last steps of getting fully out of the business to where you can be, in EOS language, more of a visionary.
So can I ask you, if sales were coming in, would you feel confident that they would know how to take the second runner knows how to take the baton and make it around the track, and the baton gets passed from a fulfillment and a communication standpoint?
Sure. Yeah. For the most part, I think there's small things that would very easily be fixed, unless it was like too much sales is coming in. Then I'd probably need to be introduced again, because other things would break, and there needs to be someone guiding, right? And that would be the next thing to fix is, can I find someone to really guide?
Isn't this why the term is growing pains, right, Khalil?
Growing pains.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're not growing, you're dying, though.
Yes.
So it's a good thing to think about. Okay. So let's jump to the next question. What decisions am I avoiding?
What decisions am I avoiding? I think for me, it's two. I think hiring faster And I don't know if that's, when I look back and I think about some of the, there's been a fair amount of people we hired that didn't work out. Sometimes, like, I'm thinking about Las Vegas right now, our busiest market. And since post-pandemic, it's probably where we've hired the most, but it's kind of a different culture out there. And there's a lot of competition for what we do. So, some days I feel like people will leave for $1 an hour more somewhere. And that's an exaggeration, but wanting to hire well, and I'm really protective of a culture. So I think I've avoided leaning into some decision making on that. And I think the second one, this is sounding like a recurring theme for me, is the automation investment. And I don't just mean automated machinery in the shop. I'm really talking about technology investment. And I think, Khalil, I think my propensity is I need to understand it before I'm going to spend a significant amount of money on it. And if I'm not understanding it quickly enough, or maybe I'm not taking the word from the of the 26-year-old who's telling me, dude, you just got to do this. I remember this guy that pushed me to be all Google apps, however many decades ago that was. And he goes, I said, I'm not putting all our most valuable information up in the clouds. And I said, we have a server for that. And he goes, yeah. He goes, and you think your security in that little closet where you keep that server is better than Google's? And I go, he's smart, Alec. And I go, well, fair point. I don't think every hacker in the world trying to make a name for themselves is trying to attack my little server. I think they may go after a Google more. But the point is, I'm slow on the swing around there if I'm not understanding it. I think that's and business is moving too fast to be lagging in that regard. And I think so. I think those are my two. What about you, sir? What's your confession?
My confession, for a while there, I was pretty hesitant on paid promotion, which we've talked about. You and I have talked about a little bit for some different stuff, but I'm looking to get maybe into it. I've always thought, man, like paid advertising is a tax on bad branding, essentially. And so I've always tried to go the organic route, but I don't know, I'm coming around to it and doing some experiments coming up soon.
But you know what? You've taught me, like, you don't have to spend, on the biggest billboard on the 6-lane highway, which is going to be your most expensive, right?
Right.
When you said, I know you're looking, you're paying for ads to hire this position and this position, and you're doing whatever, or the headhunter fees or whatever it is. And you go, we found that in a Facebook group of small niche fulfillment, right? So my point is, I think you've done an amazing job, certainly with me, reminding me that, and by the way, you're still spending, but you're not spending top dollar per se. And so is what I sound like, Monsignor Griffin when I ask this now. When you step into the confessional, are you saying, I'm ready to get out on the superhighway and try it there? Is that what you mean? Or do you think we're not doing any, and I got to get back to doing more of the niche?
Yeah. We're not doing any. We need to just get out there. We need to get out on the street, see what's happening. Yep. And I think that even doing like very specific things, right? Like sponsoring podcasts or newsletters, or coming up with different paid things is a good opportunity, and we should probably be looking into it. So that's kind of one that I avoided for a long time. I think increasing prices is one that I think a lot of business owners face.
I should have put that on my list. And it's not because I don't have some of my management team talking about it. And Martin would beat us, you and I, up about this. Yeah. Is there a week annually and you're planning, you're going to look at your pricing, because and that was there was another question we had on our list, and it was the where are we leaking margin, right? And
Yes, that's the next question.
So I started thinking about, and this has to do with your pricing. We are very guilty of costs rising. Labor and tariffs are two right now that are,
Yep.
and we're just guilty of not keeping pricing up in relation to that. We will just squeeze our processes to not raise pricing and try and find efficiency or how to reduce costs internally. But at some point, that's going to affect the quality of your deliverables, right? And you can't do that. And yet, and it's always for us, Khalil, it's still trying to do right by the customer and being in service to others. We don't want to do that. And yet you cannot deny. It's funny. This morning, I had to take my my SUV in for a new set of tires. And, I drive a GMC Yukon Denali, and the tires, I walked in with the receipt from the glove box. I said, it's been about 2.5 years. Here's the tire, and here's what they were. And he goes, and the guy looks at me and he goes, yeah, they don't cost that anymore. And I said, is there anything that does? Or he goes, he goes, the price has gone up on those. I said, is there anything that hasn't gone up in price? He goes, paychecks. And I go, okay, if you're going to go there.
That's great.
But, the point is, yeah, I'm hesitant to do that too. And that's a mistake, because ultimately that is erosion of margin. And ultimately you're going to have to, your business or your people are going to start to do without some things if you don't protect the profitability of your company.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always culprits of leaked margin, always waste everywhere. But I think, honestly, it does start with the pricing. It has to. And that is the question. Sorry, I think we kind of said it, but question 7 is, where are we leaking margin?
Yeah.
And as the business owner, you should always be keenly aware of where your waste is, right?
Right.
Especially, but it does start with, are you pricing accurately on bids? And then also increase prices. And then you start looking for the ways where you're probably leaking that margin. A lot of times for us, it's just on delays or, I guess you would say, customer concessions, which sometimes I'm okay with. I'm okay with us doing right by the customer and going the extra mile and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes they're going outside the scope. And so scope creep is a huge one for leaking margin. And then, we just reviewed a lot of our softwares and got rid of multiple and then changed to annual billing. Saved a lot of money. We're thousands of dollars per year in software expenses that we're not paying anymore because, hey, yeah, we've had that software for 4 years now. We don't have any plans to get rid of it. Let's move to annual,
I think we just had, I think all of us just had, think about the last 2 years in your business, what's gone up in your costs. Labor. I mean, we went through a runaway compensation phase, 2022 and even into 2023. Material costs, right? The supply chain disruptions that happened, materials costs were way up. Freight and transportation, gas, all of that had climbed. Rents, oh my goodness, just through the roof in the markets that we work. So anyway, we did, and we did a fair, I think we were like 7 or 7.5% price increase. We had some people in our industry that were doing 15%, and you were able to defend it in a lot of ways to your customers because they saw and they felt what was happening. But my point is, I think it had been 7 years before that since we really have adjusted. Certain markets, we have an automatic labor rate increase, but we hadn't adjusted. And it's easy to go, well, we just had it, so we don't have to do it again. We really got to look at it every year, right? Just to keep everybody honest. That doesn't mean you have to do a price increase, but you have to do a wellness check on what your margin is, gross margin is. So.
Yeah. No, that's good. Okay, question 8. What would I do differently if I weren't afraid?
Leave the office more.
Yeah.
Be out of the office more, I think. And this year, I've done that. And I got to tell you, and I've embraced the work remotely thing. And I feel like a fish out of water, Khalil. It seems so odd. I'm calling, I call, I check in. And if I call every day and talk with the senior staff, at some point they're going, yeah. I said, so what's going on? They're like, since we talked at 3:00 yesterday and it's 9:00 in the morning the next day, not a lot's changed since what I just updated. Right. And I'm going, I don't know. So I think that's for me, it's if I weren't so afraid, I don't know what I'm afraid of, right? That the plane will descend a little or go down.
Mm-hmm.
But you just got to trust, hopefully you get your business to a point that you trust there. So the truth is I still work every day, but I'm dealing with leases and union contracts and legal and some employment stuff and financial. All of those things are portable, right? They can be in this laptop and they can go with me from anywhere. It's me finding the routine to still do that and you got to be in the right headspace.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, sometimes it's better to not have the distractions right around. But is this me just missing the action and the energy of a full thriving, build shop? So, but yeah, what about you?
Yeah.
What are you? Where's the fear come from? Doing what or not doing?
I think probably firing some clients. I think there's some
That's a
legacy
great one.
work.
Yeah.
Legacy work that we do that is profitable and brings in money, but it takes us away from the direction
Not
we're
who
going
you
a
are
little bit.
anymore. Maybe it's not your
Yeah.
core, your core offering
Yeah.
or.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely it. And in some ways it holds us back. I think in some time, it's profitable work, so it's good money.
Well,
but I think it's growth trajectory. It hinders us.
let me ask you kind of on top of that. Number 9, how long could you survive? So this is maybe a wellness check.
Yeah.
How long could you survive if sales stopped today? We recently had this disruption in our industry.
Yeah, you did.
So we've learned to do. But how long could you survive if your sales just stopped today?
So we're in the process of building our, cash reserve, and as you add, it's hard because we're in growth mode too, and so as we kind of increase sales, we increase headcount a little bit and software and all that kind of stuff, and so our expenses go up, and we're trying to get to 3 months operating expenses, and I'm including my salary in that, so it gets higher. But right now we can
minimum
comfortably
wage
do
can run out of control, can it?
It can. But we're currently at 2 months of operating expenses in cash.
Tucked away.
So yeah, we're trying to get to 3 and then see where we can go from there. But if sales stop today, we could do 2 months. I don't know where you're at, but that's where we're at.
Well, so
and you go through this regularly, seasonally, every year.
So that it's funny. The day, depending on when you ask me this question, right? My answer, because I think we've talked about this in the past, 60%, 62% of our revenue comes in the first 6 months of the year, right? We're guaranteed to make money 6 months of the year if we just, show up with rested. You're guaranteed you're going to lose money 2 months a year in this industry, the seasonal nature of it. It's the other 4 months that determine whether you have a good year or a bad year. When 9/11 hit, which was 2001, a significant disruption to our industry, we learned just how thin some businesses run. 1 month, second month, by the third month, they were out of business. Many of them. It's happened in September. They were gone by Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Because people weren't still freaked about getting on planes. housing collapse, '09, and that one stuck around for a while. And then what we just experienced, a pandemic. So the short answer is we're somewhere between 3 and 6 months.
It's good.
Now, and that's not going out on line of credit. That's not, liquidating maybe some of the
Right.
longer term investment stuff. But, that's after 3 to 6 months, depending on, yes, then we start cutting muscle, and now we're in survival mode, and
Right.
and that hurts everybody. So I
Well,
don't know what the right answer is, Khalil, but I like if there is a right one, but
I think the right answer is 3 months, and I'll tell you why. One, I don't think sales stop,
right.
like just stop.
Well,
Maybe
that's
they
what the
decline.
brochure says.
That's what the
But-
brochure
but-
says. There could be a pandemic
But in March
globally that
2020,
changes things. Yeah, but for the most part, it's not just going to stop. There's usually warning signs. There's usually a decline, and so usually that 3 months can go longer than 3 months because it's not zero.
It's
revenue.
not zero. Yeah.
And then two, if it does stop like that, then there's probably problems and you need to make some drastic changes. I think what would be, criminal as a business owner, and you'd be afraid of doing is sales stop. And then you just act like business is normal because you're worried about what people think. You're worried about letting go of people and changing their lives. But the reality is objectively, if sales stop, then other things need to stop too.
So, okay, this is not one of the questions, but it's like a follow-up to what you just said. How long should an owner or a business leader allow that decline to exist before they take action?
Yeah. I've kind of been through this before, and I waited a little bit too long. I waited about 6 months before.
Yep.
It wasn't a complete stop in sales, but we changed what we were doing, let go of some clients. Some people wanted to stay on as team members, some left. The ones that wanted to stay needed to change their position or role and have some different duties and stuff like that. And I waited about 6 months and it was too long. And I wish I would have said, we got 2 weeks. We figure it out. If we don't, it's been real. You're talented. You've got opportunities ahead of you, but I'm not going to bankroll
Uncertainty.
you figuring things out for a long time,
Yeah.
It's not my responsibility. I'm a small business owner. I'm not a corporation,
That's
and if you're willing to really change, I'm here. But if you're going to delay this and not really give your full effort and all that kind of stuff.
So
That's
your
not what I'm
best
here for.
advice to experienced builders, listeners, small business owner listeners is 3 months is of your full general expenses.
Yeah.
In
And
the
I would
bank
include
is
yourself
your-
in that.
Yeah.
Include you paying yourself because that's a reality.
I do too.
Yeah. So that would be my experience saying that's probably good enough. And you still have to be decisive though. If things are going bad,
Yeah.
Don't wait until the 3 months is up to make changes. So, okay, let's go into the last question, Chris. Number 10. What's the real root cause of my stress?
Well, it's my marriage, really. No, I think my wife is somewhere in earshot, so that was just to hit her up there. As you know, if you're a small business owner, that stress is a moving target, right? It's payroll. It's a client that is litigious and they want to threaten you with legal action if you don't do whatever. If you've ever had an employee steal from you, you wonder what else do you not know. For me, I think there's two things. We're pretty together group right now. I'm in an industry where we literally live off of variables that you have little to no direct control over. I think and we've done an episode on so there's sort of the known unknowns, but it's the unknown unknowns, I think, is one of the things. And I'm in an industry where that can show up. But we built a model to respond, right? I think these days it's COG, continuity of government. It's something happens to me. There's a fully functioning business here. There's a good management team. But what is the continuity of business that plane just doesn't even have to hiccup? There's a very capable co-pilot there. And so I'm spending some time thinking about that. I'm not worried about, hey, are three of us on the same plane? And it's not obsessing about that, but the stress of, have I done enough to plan for this to continue on? Right. And so I'm trying to be a better steward of that right now. What about you? What's root cause of stress? Because ultimately it's about your family, right? You want to make sure you've built this thing, and you want to make sure the people you care about, your work family and your own, are provided.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, the biggest source of my stress, I'm going to look up the exact quote for you here. It is about our wariness. Let me see this.
When you say wary,
Quotes.
like he may be wary, WEAR.
Our greatest wariness,
Yeah.
WEARINEE, wariness. Our greatest wariness comes from work not done. And that is right at the heart of it. There's so many things to do, both personally and professionally. And
So you're not talking about projects
make
in the
time for
queue. This is about what moves you as a man, that what the mission, the vision you have when you say, or
Yeah.
you like, I got 16 orders in the queue and it's not the work not done in that regard. I'm guessing it's a
I mean,
deeper meaning.
you just think about it. So like right now, I have a really good system called Getting Things Done, and I have 11 current personal projects. They're not necessarily big things. Like buying a minivan is one of those projects. It's multiple steps, right? You gotta get financing and all this kind of stuff, right? So that's one of my personal projects. I've got 11 of those. I've got 9 work projects that I'm currently actively focused on for work. And I'm not like, again, they're not massive things,
No, but you're
they're
part
projects.
of the execution
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah, part of the execution. Each one of those has multiple actions that I've got to take care of. I've got 27 next actions that are just they're not projects, they're just next actions. Some of them are as small as I've got to write a thank you card. Another one's I've got to mow the lawn. I've got to pay the credit card, right? I've got all these different actions, but that's just on that side. Then if I go in my email, I currently have next actions in my email. I have 18, right? That people I've got to get back to, things that I've got to do, right? And so you throw all of that into sleeping probably 5 hours a night with the baby, and then trying to help out with the toddler, and school starts tomorrow for our toddler. And you lived through this, Chris, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's when there's things just not done.
But can I just say, I'm in awe that people that are listening to you, by the way, I'm familiar with we have an episode we did on getting things done, and
Just for the email,
you just threw out the 11 things, the 9 things, the 27 things, right? And then the 18 emails. You know those numbers. And
that helps.
And really,
That helps a lot.
I think most people walk around with that noise in their head, and they don't have there's no way they're remembering that all. And yet I do know, I mean, I know you have a system to recall that at your fingertips.
I try to, yeah.
And so when, there's those days you just feel I don't have enough time, but you never don't know what not to, you don't suffer from what I don't know what to do. You know exactly. It might be, okay, today I'm working on the stuff that's 1 yard at a time. But, and by the way, some of those things, like the action items you have, are just the steps of those bigger, broader things, right? And you break them down into, really achievable, actionable things. And it's, at the end of the day, it's about managing our day and managing our time and managing project and and Are you good at knowing, Khalil, self-policing when you're at capacity of intake of anything? No. Yeah. See, that's where it gets.
That's where it comes from. I know everything, and that's really helpful to have it all in an organized system that
if
I don't
you
have to
just
store it
keep
in
the
here.
intake door open, and you
Well,
go,
and
I
it's not
can't
just
do
about
that
the
until I
intake
thin the
door.
herd a little bit, right? So
Yeah, it's also about so you have to start with your purpose, right? And then you have to choose your areas of focus to be like currently for me to reach my potential and to help others reach their potential. What are my areas of focus going to be? And more importantly, what are my areas of focus not going to be? Right? Like I'm not going to be training for a marathon right now because it's not an area of focus. It is part of me trying to reach my potential, right? Because I know I'm a runner. I know that that's something I like to do. But I'm needed in other places right now for this season.
Are you?
But I will tell you, Chris, once Luca Maria, our daughter, who's a month old currently, is able to fit in the running stroller, guess who's going to be back out trying to train for the marathon?
Well,
right?
So are you self-aware enough, though, that you do not allow a new thing like running a training for a half marathon
Sure.
into your intake door until you...
It depends. It depends what it is. Yeah, I think I try to be, but sometimes, I will underestimate how long something takes very easily. And so if I'm not careful, I'll undertake something that's too big. So
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these are awesome questions. I think that we'll put these in the show notes, go through them, and I think you'll learn a ton about yourself.
We were talking about, the subject for those that need to remember, this was the 10 questions least asked by business owners. And I think just reflecting back what we just talked about, the reminder is this is not 9 to 5 stuff. It's not work tasks, that we're talking about with those questions. This is life stuff. And by the way, if you're an entrepreneur, then I don't need to explain it to you. Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is not a job. It's a lifestyle choice. You've chosen a way to live your life. And I don't even know that it's a choice, right? Because I think for most entrepreneurs, it's the way you're built. It's a calling, and there's just this mashup of work and life, and it's this big, beautiful, messy thing, bucket of stuff. And we do it because it makes us happy. And anyway, this was a great ride for me to go through these. So thank you for suggesting this topic and these questions. This was great.
Yeah. No, thanks for chatting, Chris. Ask these questions often. They're in the show notes. As always, thank you for your time.
See you on the next one, bud.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to the Experience Builders podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great content. Visit our website at crewxp.com to learn more about us. See you in the next one.